What if you were raised in a family system where the normalized dynamic was enmeshment and oversharing? So that's what you learned that intimacy is. But now your drive is to heal enmeshment and heal oversharing. But it's lonely because you're no longer this open book to people anymore. You're no longer this person that tells people everything about everything that's going on in your life. And now that you have kind of brought yourself back to you, and you're not just this open book that is bleeding out to everybody, it's almost as if you don't know what to do with yourself. It's almost as if you don't know the path forward. It's uncomfortable and unfamiliar territory. So, what do you do when you feel lonely because you're healing enmeshment and you're stopping oversharing? The thing that I've found to be most profound is sitting with myself, sitting in my mind, and really tuning into what it is that I feel. Let me put something into perspective in a way that I think will be very beneficial for a lot of people here watching. All the times that we overshare, all of the times that we expose ourselves to people, all the times that we open wide the books that we are to people, right? The reality is that we're exposing ourselves. And oftentimes it's happening so fast. The unfolding dynamic of it is happening at lightning speed. Have we actually gauged to see if these people are safe or not? If we can trust them? Do they actually have healthy boundaries? How do they deal with their shit? Do they project it or do they bring it back on themselves to better understand? Another thing that's important to look at as well is that, yes, I can understand that people would want to share, they would want to be seen. Intimacy is about knowing and being known, it is about being seen. Can you do that with everyone in a safe way? Nope. That's the reality of it. So the thing is, you're probably used to oversharing, you're probably used to being seen, and that is your idea of being seen. And what you don't realize is that the destruction of self that takes place when you expose yourself to somebody that is not safe and that is not emotionally healthy, it's unfortunate, it's catastrophic. And to also consider what it felt like for you, what it feels like for you to sit with your stuff, to really reflect on your stuff and your life. Other people will have to say about it what they'll have to say about it, but at the end of the day, how do you feel about the things that you've been through in your life? What does it mean to you? All of this worth that you've tried to derive and strive for externally, bring it back on yourself. Other people don't determine your worth. You only think that they do because you were raised to see your worth as extrinsic. You are the authority figure of your life. Nobody else has authority over you. What does it feel like to bring that power back to yourself? You might feel lonely after discontinuing enmeshment and oversharing. That's totally reasonable. But have you considered how you actually feel about the things that you've experienced in your life? Before you consider what anybody else might feel about it, what about yourself? How does it feel to sit with yourself? How does it feel to sit with your stuff, your shit, the things that traumatized you? You don't need anybody else's validation and approval. I understand that it's comfortable and familiar. I understand that deriving your overall sense of self worth from the external is comfortable and familiar. How do you feel about it? Dive into the loneliness. Loneliness, in and of itself, is just communicating to you something that is important for you to sit with and understand. It's totally reasonable to feel lonely after discontinuing enmeshment and oversharing. There is this wild rush of a dynamic emotionally that takes place when you are enmeshed with people, when you are oversharing. From my own experiences, that is. It's comfortable, it's familiar. It is you ripping yourself open to somebody else to be seen, to be felt, to be understood, to be heard. And yes, it absolutely does hurt when you are invalidated after doing so. It does. But you can also ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why am I enmeshing with people? Is this something that I actually want to do, or is this just comfortable and familiar to childhood? Are my enmeshed relationships actually healthy? Do I actually instead feel undervalued? Do I instead feel violated? Do I actually feel seen? Enmeshment is pseudo intimacy. In other words, it's halfway intimacy. It's not healthy intimacy. It's not safe intimacy. What is it that you present to people in terms of what it is that you've experienced in your life and your own inner world? And why do you present that to people? What do you choose to expose and why? If you meet somebody, excuse me, if you meet somebody and they tell you about their entire life story in 5 minutes, they lack healthy boundaries. These are the types of individuals, not good or bad or right or wrong, but these are the types of individuals that engage in enmeshment and oversharing. And the fascinating thing about these types of dynamics is that they happen from start to finish and end really fast. Individuals that engage in enmeshment and oversharing don't carry healthy relationships, and their relationships are usually short lived. They're usually very superficial, even though it seems deep. Anything that starts fast ends fast. So, what would it be like for you to step into the loneliness and to engage with yourself, and to just be present with yourself? You can feel lonely while healing enmeshment and oversharing dynamics. I would argue, not claiming this as fact or as truth, but I would argue that that's actually healthy to feel lonely. What have you considered for yourself? It's not about other people. Nobody else experienced your traumatic childhood. Nobody else experienced the things that you did in the genuine and unique ways that you did. Nobody was there when you were traumatized the way that you were traumatized. Nobody gets to tell you what it is and what it isn't. A lot of people will want to, but nobody actually gets to. You can allow people to, but they'll essentially be taking their talons and ripping your boundaries apart and telling you who you are, which is a boundary violation, which says everything about them and nothing about you, except that you lack healthy boundaries, which is why you enmesh with people and you overshare. You've been through a lot in life. It doesn't matter what it is. It just matters that you understand that it's real and that it's valid. Nobody else gets to tell you your life. No matter how much you want to enmesh, no matter how much you want to overshare because it's comfortable and familiar, nobody else gets to tell you who you are, why you are, what your trauma was. Validate, invalidate. Validation is nice, of course. How do you feel about you? That's the most important part. When you can get to that core, there's a sea of liberation. It's magical.